Hello everybody, I'm Ard, and welcome to another episode of Glacial Awakening. Today, we're going to start on Magneticraft, and that means I need a place to put it because I don't just want to continue littering the outside here. Now, I had originally planned on building a base up here, and I still do, but I'm also come to terms with the fact that that's not where I was going to put the Magneticraft stuff to begin with, and I still am kind of starved for ideas for what to do up here. So instead, we're going to go build out the sub-basement that I wanted to put in here to store the Magneticraft stuff in. And I was going to put the entrance to it right back here by the kitchen, right in this hallway. So let me get started on that, and then we can talk about what I'm planning on doing. All right, so now I've got a little bit of a hole dug out here. It's not as big as I would like to make it, but it's at least a starting point, and I can try to figure out how I want to decorate this room now overall. And I gotta admit, digging this type of hole right now, even this small, was really, really painful to do, because I don't have any actual tools for digging yet. Like, ironically, you supposedly can use the building gadgets tools to do stuff after you start Magneticraft and have a power source that can power them. And we're not quite there yet. So I desperately resorted to tossing my Efficiency 2 book onto this Tetra axe for now, just to get it a little bit faster. Because without a hammer or without anything that can dig bigger or faster, it was just... This isn't even that big a room, and it took way too longer than I would have liked. But let me go figure out how I want this to look now. Alright, so I think I finally settled on a look that I'm mostly okay with. I had been trying to avoid wood because I use it so heavily in Enigmatica, but I don't really have a choice here. That's the main building component that I have, so I ended up doing the walls out of wood. But I am happy with the liquid souls that I've got behind the wall here as decoration. Just makes the wall pop a little bit here. And I'm kind of happy with how I did the tiling on the floors here. It's relatively random. I chiseled a bunch of the blocks randomly. As you can see, I'm not entirely done here. I was doing the same thing on the wall, and I'm not done there either yet entirely, especially back against this wall. But overall, I'm pretty happy. Not so happy about the decorative spider back here, but you don't always get what you want. Obviously, I didn't finish out this wall because I intend to make this room much, much bigger. But in the spirit of actually getting on with the episode, we have to stop somewhere. So I think it's time to continue on with chapter 3 and move on to the Magneticraft section of the book. And this is a mod that I have absolutely no experience with. So we're going to start by getting the manual as well as some more arcane base blocks, which you'll notice I did use in this room, and I'm actually pretty happy with how it turned out. I wasn't sure if it would work, but it looks decent, at least to me. And it's my house, so I'm the one that matters here, right? And to get the manual, we have to craft a magnet with a book. And the magnet, well, it's actually not that hard. It's just a whole bunch of lapis and redstone, which hopefully I've got lying around. I'm not entirely confident of that. Okay, thankfully I did actually have enough of this lying around, so that part's easy. Now if you'll just avert your eyes while I go obtain some cow hide, we'll get this book made. Alright, and now we can get started finally. And it's a pretty standard manual as far as these go. That just lists all of the different things we can make. So let's take our blocks and look at what it wants us to do. It looks like we need to start by making a grinder, which is weird that this is saying anything about the grinder, because what it actually wants us to make is a thermopile, it looks like, which is the power source first. So I guess that's what we're actually going to start with here. And the thermopile is a bunch of copper ingots, which thankfully we have in storage, iron ingots, and a machine block, which, oh, this is intimidating looking, but that's lead, which I think I have some, and a motor, which is, wow, this is looking a lot like Nuclearcraft actually, which is lead ingots, and then some copper wire, which is just a bunch more copper, and some ingot. Okay, so it's time to go see how much ore I've actually got in storage, make sure I can smelt it all, and pray for the best, eh? Otherwise I'm gonna have to go do some mining. Well, the good news is I had more than enough ores. The bad news is we can't smelt them in a normal furnace. The copper we can do in the Nature's Altar, so that part's pretty easy. This just turns it into nuggets, same as iron. The lead, however, we cannot do it this way. What this turns it into is something we can't process yet. We have to do it the pyrotech way. I have to go set myself on fire. Nope, I was completely wrong. We can process it. We just misread what we had to do. We need to take these leaded rocky chunks that we get from the Nature's Altar and pass it into a Magneticraft sluice box. And this gets us random pieces, mostly lead chunks, which we can then double into ingots in a normal furnace. So this is actually not too bad. Thankfully, the sluice box isn't that hard to make in the scheme of things. The main thing is this, I think I've used in a different pack or some variation of it. I think it's a very manual process as far as I remember though. But we'll set it up and we'll go figure it out, eh? Okay, so I just set it down over here where I had my water that I moved temporarily just to have it someplace over here. Had to smash all the ice because it's not covered anymore. I really need to find a better spot for all of this. To use it, we just take these lead rocky chunks that we got out of our nature's altar, put them up in here, and then add water to the lower box, and it will slowly process it, and out they all pop. You know, so we have 7 lead chunks and 7 silver chunks. Because this was not actually a lead rocky chunk, it was actually a galena rocky chunk. So that's what it produced. I don't actually see any cobblestone here, so maybe we didn't get any cast off cobblestone, but it's not like I need more rock after digging out that room. And now that we have that, we can just smelt it as normal. Same with the silver. Okay, and a whole bunch of submines later, we now have a thermopile. We also have a humongous mess in my inventory, and I probably should go do something about that. Alright, bare minimum effort, go. We now have a small chest with all of the extra components from Magneticraft in here, which doesn't help me because we are a long ways away from my inventory. I am starting to really miss A2 right now. But now we have the thermopile, which acts like it does in immersive engineering, where you put something hot and something cold next to it and it generates power. It's showing that we're actually building some voltage, and that's probably because of the torch. I'm surprised that it works with nothing next to it, unless the block under it is counting, which it probably is actually. So my guess is this works like the immersive engineering one, where the numbers, where each side you connect like this adds to it, so you can create a big grid of these, which we're not going to do for now. What we are, however, going to do is create some lava, which the amplifying tubes can do with cobblestone, and see if we can actually use lava in the thermopile. And I'm actually skeptical of this because the thermopile list here lists a whole bunch of different things, their temperature and their conductivity, but I didn't actually see lava in here. Like, most of it's in buckets, and there's not actually any listed in here. So this may actually not work at all for this mod pack, which will be weird. I'll have to find some other thing. It feels kind of like they want you to use the magma block though, which you can get with a coring recipe, but we haven't made the warm cores before, but it's not exactly hard. We could also do it with an alchemistry evaporator, which looks really easy to make actually. Because we can just do it from a bucket of lava, which we just created. So if this doesn't work, I think that's what we're actually gonna do. But here's to hoping this doesn't actually set my base on fire. We're gonna do it the ugly way for starters. I'm gonna cap that up. We're gonna take a quick look here and see how fast it's going. So 3,342, and then we're going to plop a snow block down right next to it. And that increased it a little bit. So it does seem like it at least works, I think. Now, however, we need to make the electric cables. Then the electric cables don't look too bad to make. Looks like we can make them with leather or wool, and then a copper plate or a copper ingot. The copper plate makes even more of them, but we either need to do it via immersive engineering sheet metal, which is made from plates, so that seems pointless, or we need to use the hydraulic press or the metal press, although I think there's a way you can do it with a hammer. Yes, the manual mentions a crushing table, but we'll see if it's actually a thing we can do. And it's disabled, so I guess we're doing this the expensive way. Okay, and the electric cables are solved now. The last thing we need to do is make the grinder pattern and then make the grinder multi-block, which they warn us is extremely expensive. So we'll see how far we actually get. But the recipe is just a piece of paper and a diamond. I think we can afford that. Woo, getting low on diamonds though. All right, and let's see how big this beast is. Well, that looks horrifying. All right, so you can just break that grinder block that I was looking at to remove the pattern. I put it in the center of the room just to get a better look at it. But I probably should have just gone into the manual because this tells us what we actually need. It's impossible to tell from the ghost image. But this could be horrifyingly bad because we need a bunch more machine blocks, which thankfully we've got a bunch still, but we need to make one other batch. We need a copper coil machine block, iron grate machine blocks, striped machine blocks, and corrugated machine blocks, which is all of these different types of machine blocks. And the iron one's just more iron. The copper one is a big huge mess of wire and lead. The striped machine block is gold with heavy nuggets. Why heavy nuggets? The iron grate is just iron grates. And the electrical one is a bunch of lapis and a tungsten plate. And hopefully it didn't call for this. Okay, thankfully it did not actually call for that one. Good, that would have been confusing. I don't know how we would have done the tungsten plate. So I I guess I get to toil through the rest of this night making a ton of subcomponents now, because that's going to take a bit. This is like all of the worst bits of immersive engineering, but it almost feels worse. So, well, at least we'll be to ore doubling after we get this though, eh? Assuming I have enough power coming in from the Thermopile and I don't have to make a bunch more of those, which I probably should anyways. Well, I can honestly say when I started on this, I wasn't expecting to have to create a whole stack of iron for this project. But here we are, I guess, so I guess time to go process this in Nature's Altar. It turns out that I can't read all of these recipes, kick out 8 of these, so I didn't need a whole stack, I needed 8 iron. But I'm sure I'll need more later, so whatever, good enough. So let's slap this down somewhere and see how it works. We're probably going to tear it apart and move it once I make this room bigger, but we'll worry about that later. And now we just put everything where it looks like it should go. Now, all of the messaging disappears, so assuming I've done this right, I should just have to right-click this grinder block. And we now have the grinder multi-block. Looks like power probably goes in there. And the rest of this I have no clue on. So let's see if I've got enough power cables or if I have to make some more. And easier to just move the Thermopile over, although that's using all of our cable because there's a stretch behind it over there. And I don't like how this cobble looks because the lava just makes this a pain to work with. I think I'm just going to go turn it into the Firestone and see how that works for power. Because right now without, it's generating just about 3100 heat flux. So we'll see if that improves with the Firestone. I can also potentially turn the snow into ice, but then we chance the ice melting, which would be problematic. Alright, so I created the evaporator pretty quickly and dumped the lava in, and wow, the lava just disappeared. Maybe it's done already. That was pretty fast, faster than I was expecting. Right click the evaporator and we have the magma block, so perfect. I've got to be clear, I was expecting that to take minutes. But this is generating only a tiny bit less than the lava itself was, so I will take that as a win. And if we need to make more, we can sort of put another 2 pieces around it, and then we can grid this out to make more of these thermopiles if we really need more power. But now we also have an automated way to make cobblestone into gravel and sand, which that's actually a pretty big win because that was a giant pain to make. So that might be worth trying pretty soon, as well as bone into more bone meal. But the important part is we should now be able to toss all of this excess copper ore in here and double it. Oh yeah, we are definitely not outputting enough power though, because this is clearly not staying charged. Hopefully it'll be enough to get through this. If not, it'll just take a little while, I guess. And I should note that while we can take these rocky copper chunks that we just got out of the grinder and turn it directly into ingots in our furnace, if we pass it through the sluice, this is where we actually get proper ore doubling. Just like we did back at the beginning of the episode. We just toss it right there and toss the water in, and out come the delicious copper chunks that we can now smelt down in a normal fashion that does not require a ton of effort on my part. So I'm calling that a pretty big win because now we're actually up to proper ore doubling. So that was useful. This has been a pretty long day for me though, because building the basement there took a lot longer than you might think, and it took a while to put together all the pieces for the grinder. So I think I'm calling it a day. If you found this episode interesting and entertaining, please consider leaving a like or subscribing if you're new. As always, I'm Ard. Thank you for watching, and have a nice day.